Israel has not stopped bombing the Gaza Strip for a single day, and in the last few days it has been doing so around the clock. In this context, the death toll surpasses the 35,200 mark, without counting all those buried under the rubble. The government of Spain denied entry into its territorial waters to a Danish-flagged vessel carrying armament bound for Israel. And Russian President Vladimir Putin held a press conference in the China's city of Harbin, where he attended the Russia-China Forum of Interregional Cooperation. He made reference to the conflict with Ukraine. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos, and from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba, we begin with the news. Israel has not ceased on its bombing of the Gaza Strip, where the armed forces have already killed more than 35,200 people, not counting bodies still under the rubble. The most recent attacks have been perpetrated against the Nusrat refugee camp in the center of the Palestinian enclave. The occupying forces also destroyed the school of Al-Huni, where hundreds of displaced people were sheltered, with the health authorities of the enclave confirming at least 4 children were killed. In the last 12 hours, the Rescue and Civil Defense Brigades also reported the destruction of 50 Palestinians' homes, all of them occupied. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees announced the forced displacement of more than 630,000 Palestinians from Rafah due to Israeli attacks. The international organization expressed that this imposed displacement hasn't stopped since last October 7th, when the Zionist state began its genocidal offensive against the Gaza Strip. In this context, the agency added that the city of Deir al-Balah is the main refuge for Palestinians fleeing from Rafah in search of safety. However, currently this area is overpopulated, which results in the collapse of the conditions for habitability. The Rafah crossing was the only access for humanitarian aid, and it is also blocked now by Israeli bombardment. On the other hand, in the last 24 hours, Israel has committed 4 new massacres against Palestinian families in the Gaza Strip. The Zionist occupation attacks have left at least 31 civilians killed and 56 injured. Doctors and rescuers reported that there are still people under the rubble of buildings and others scattered on the roads by the bombardments. And in this context, the number of journalists killed by the Israeli army in the Gaza Strip has risen to 147. According to the Gaza government office, the media workers killed by Israel in the recent days are Hael al-Najjar, editor in the Al-Aqsa Media Network, Muhammad Jagrou, photojournalist for the Palestinian Post website, and Muataz Mustafa al-Jafri of the Palestinian Media Corporation. The regime in Tel Aviv is trying to repress the exposure of its actions against the Gaza Strip, and it is attacking the media such as Al Jazeera, Palestine TV, and the Man News Agency, Al-Quds, and Al-Ayam News agencies have also been victims of the Zionist aggression. The Union of Palestinian Journalists criticized the silence of the International Criminal Court in the face of the Israeli aggressions. In this context, on Friday, the Spanish government denied entry into its territorial waters to the Danish flagship Marianne Danica, which was carrying arms to Israel. In this sense, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs prevented the ship from making a docking in Cartagena. Previously, Spanish social activists requested a similar measure for the cargo ship Borkum, but the public prosecutor's office rejected the request because the cargo was destined for the Czech Republic. The blocked Danish ship left the port of Madras in India with a final destination to the port of Haifa in Israel. In the meantime, the Spanish foreign minister defended the measure and affirmed that it was justified.
I have publicly announced on many occasions, including in Congress and in the Senate, on behalf of Spain, our decision not to agree to any new licenses for the export of war material to Israel, and this decision we have taken to reject this ship is consistent and follows the same line.
On Thursday, 13 foreign ministers from different countries signed a request for Israel to stop the ground invasion of Rafah. In this sense, the German media reported that the joint document signed by foreign ministers of Germany, France, the United Kingdom, Italy, Japan and Canada, among others, called on the head of the Zionist diplomacy, Israel Katz, to ask the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to alleviate the devastating humanitarian crisis in Gaza and to open all the border crossings, including Rafah. It is worth highlighting that neither the document nor the request was followed by the United States. Now let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, held a press conference in Harbin City in China within the framework of the Russia-China Forum of Interregional Cooperation. There he made reference to the conflict in Ukraine. Russian head of state closed his final international visit on Friday after his opening on May 7th. Putin stressed the importance of the agreement expressed in the extraordinary joint declaration with President Xi Jinping, in which they make clear the status and strength of the main emerging countries and regions of the Global South and their constant upsurge. The Russian leader further reaffirmed the sincere willingness to reach an early exit of the conflict with Ukraine, noting that his soldiers are winning every day and that the operations in Kharkov are proceeding, according to him, strictly according to plan.
What is happening now is that the current authorities in Kiev have their origin in the coup d'etat. This is the origin of the current Ukrainian authorities. By allowing this coup d'etat, by having favored and helped in this coup d'etat, they created the conditions to turn a latent conflict into a real conflict.
President Putin also referred to the illegality of the sanctions that the United States imposes with impunity and on sovereign countries.
Sanctions against third countries are twice illegitimate, because if they are accepted without the permission of the United Nations, they are already illegitimate. And when they are made against other countries, the third part is already something extraordinary. It's the United States or European countries that take these sanctions even against their own allies.
In other news, the French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin confirmed on Friday that police shot dead a man who tried to burn down a synagogue in the north of the country. According to the minister, the incident took place in the city of Rouen, the capital of Normandy region, as the attacker clearly wanted to destroy the temple. For his part, the mayor of the city, Nicolas Meyer, stated that the suspect climbed the walls of the religious building and threw an incendiary device similar to a Molotov cocktail bomb. In this sense, he also reported that there were no casualties other than the attacker, as the synagogue was empty.
We don't know the extent of the damage yet, but it's significant. The whole synagogue is damaged. It's not just one place. It's the walls. The ceiling. We had just renovated the synagogue, the chandeliers, which cost us 13,000 euros. It's really considerable damage.
And Brazilian journalist Patricia de Oliveira Souza revealed that Venezuelan far-right leader Corina Machado received $3.2 million from U.S. lobbies under an agreement to hand over PDVSA to Chevron if she won the elections. On an interview to a Venezuelan outlet, de Oliveira Souza proved that Corina Machado and Juan Guaidó forged links with political lobbies of the Howard Stirk holding U.S. company to subjugate Venezuela. The extreme right got cash from the Decent Foundation to lead a campaign and smear work on social media. The reporter further unfolded the involvement of the fugitive from Venezuelan Justice Pedro Luis Urruchurtu and former U.S. prosecutors William Barr linked to former President Donald Trump. This evidence comes as a Brazilian journalist who worked covering Latin American news in the United States, venue of several media outlets such as Fox News.
Maria Corina needed money for her political campaign, so the United States government got together to give money to Maria Corina. In this sense, Maria Corina was willing to negotiate for Venezuelan oil, which the North American politicians want so much from Venezuela.
And in this context, journalist Patricia de Oliveira Souza revealed that the negotiations between Maria Corina Machado and the United States reached the $3 million.
I am sure that I saw that the campaign of Corina Machado received money from the United States in the amount of $3 million. But I am also sure that they also paid Juan Guaido. When the negotiation of Guaido took place, I began to work for that office in 2021, and that is the reason that I do not have a figure with certainty of how much Guaido received. But for Maria Corina, I am sure that it was an amount of $3 million.
And in Haiti, students returned to school in the capital Port-au-Prince after more than 2 months without classes. The escalating violence caused by criminal groups in the city kept around 200,000 students away from classrooms, with constant confrontations and multiple criminal acts being committed in school spaces. In this context, since the beginning of this week and in a gradual manner, the neighborhood of Delmas and Pétionville, among others, have allowed students and teachers to return to the facilities. In light of the reopening, the Professional Association of Private Schools called on the state to support all educational centers in view of the deterioration that they have suffered. On Thursday night, another local candidate was murdered in the south of Mexico. The victim, 28-year-old Lucero López Maza, was running for mayor of La Concordia, a municipality in the state of Chiapas. In the incident that took place at the gas station in the community, 5 other people were murdered and at least 2 resulted injured. López Maza, who represented the Chiapaneco Popular Party, was the daughter of Ataulfo López, whom an organized crime group attacked a few weeks ago, murdering several of his workers and burning vehicles. This event took place hours before President Andrés Manuel López Obrador and his Guatemalan counterpart Bernardo Arévalo were to hold a summit meeting in that state to discuss issues related to migration. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and also share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back from the South. Panama's President Laurentino Cortizo will leave the government on June 30th with a trail of problems that hit the Panamanian people, especially the most vulnerable population. How do the people see his legacy? We'll tell you.
The Cortizo government increased the debt by 87% in just 5 years. When Cortizo assumed the presidency in mid-2019, the country owned $24,000 million, and now it has soared to more than $50,000 million.
La alta deuda externa. ¿Sí? Eso
The high foreign debt. Why? Because the higher the foreign debt, the harder the conditions imposed by the international financial organizations. And this has a direct impact on the country's finances.
The PRD administration raised the Panamanian debt from 30% of the GDP to 60%. Most of that debt is placed in bonds in U.S. banks. 20 out of every $100 of the year's state budget is spent on debt service alone.
High indebtedness, corruption, which we cannot deny that we also had, high inequality. All of this has contributed a lot to high inequality, to the point that Panama went from 5th or 6th place to 4th. What is this in terms of world inequality? That is a terrible legacy for this society.
On the other hand, Cortizo began his mandate amid protests, like those of 2019 against failed electoral reforms designed by businessmen. These continued throughout his mandate for various cases of corruption, the high cost of living, and extractivism.
This is a government that unfortunately developed in its last phase what we can call a policy of bill passing. Because the social movement showed an organization and tenacity of struggle that was expressed in the last 2 years, in 2022 and in October 2023, against the mining project.
Analysts agree that the reading of the past elections also includes a terminal phase of this protest that led to a punishment vote.
The majority of the popular vote, the most impoverished, those who felt the brunt of the effects of the pandemic, of the disaster of how the pandemic was handled in Panama, which led to the unemployment of hundreds of thousands of people and the bankruptcy of thousands of businesses. Small businesses, those people, their main problem, and the polls showed this, was not corruption, it was unemployment.
The government transition begins on June 3rd in preparation for D-Day, which is July 1st, when Cortizo leaves the Palacio de las Garzas.
Para TeleSUR, desde Ciudad de Panamá, Reca Chandiramani.
We go now to the world of sports. The Secretary General of the Supreme Committee for the Delivery and Legacy of Qatar, Hassan Abdullah Al-Tawadi, assured on Wednesday that his country has the capacity to organize the Olympic Games. During his participation in the Doha Economic Forum, the official reaffirmed the country's ability to manage the Olympic event in the best way and reiterated the desire to host the Games in 2036, but made it clear that the decision rests with the International Olympic Committee. On the topic, the Secretary pointed out that the country is still reaping benefits after organizing the FIFA World Cup in 2022, and its infrastructure makes it ready to host more events in the field, not only in the world of sports. And let's go now to the United Kingdom, where the 20 clubs that make up the Premier League will vote at an annual meeting scheduled for June the 6th on the possibility of eliminating the video assistant referee, known as VAR, starting next season. The request was originally made by the Wolverhampton club, which claimed that the system has had a negative consequence in the relationship between fans and football. In this sense, the club also alleged the VAR removes the essence of the game, citing its impact on goal celebrations and stating it causes confusion on the pitch when the plays are being scrutinized. The proposal now needs the support of the clubs at the June 6th General Assembly, where 14 votes in favor from the 20 teams that make up the Premier will be required. And in other news, the Ministry of Culture of France returned 2 paintings seized from the Nazis to their rightful owners. Recent research has revealed that art dealer and rightful owner Gregor Schutzermann was forced to flee from Paris in March 1941 to escape anti-Semitic persecution. To finance his escape and ensure his livelihood, he had to sell several paintings, among them a Renoir and a Sisley. These works were bought by a German art dealer who sent them to Germany, where they were found after the war. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. But you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Willem de los Santos. Thank you for watching.